Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. Today, we're going to have with us one of the podcasting all-stars. Not only does she have one great show, she has two great shows, and I've been on both of them. They're so much fun. The legend of finding favorites and Candy Chat. Leah Jones is here from Chicago. Leah, welcome to the show.
Hello to the whole Corman family. I get everyone this week.
Welcome, Leah. Shai, I feel like you made the intro extra buttery just for Leah.
Yeah, you have to show up for the pros. You have to show up for the pros. The people who are, who bring their own Yeti mic to the episode, they get extra butter.
Mm-hmm.
They get the extra butter.
Also, because I sent Shabbat treats this week.
Well, so this is what we're going to start with here. So Leah's Candy Chat podcast, which everyone should listen to, with her host, Jocelyn Gayboy, who is hilarious co-host. They invited me on, and I got to talk about Canadian chocolate bars. That's one of our favorite subjects. Well, there was something I had never heard of, which is a Pearson's salted nut roll. And I tried my first one yesterday.
Quite the mouthful.
As far as I can tell, a Pearson's salted nut roll is some combination of peanuts, caramel, and maybe marshmallow. I can't really tell I was eating it in the dark by a fire pit. And Leah sent the original flavor yesterday, which was outstanding. It made a payday bar look like garbage. At first, I was looking at it thinking, oh, this is like a payday. No, payday, you're garbage compared to a Pearson's salted nut roll. But this one right here that I'm going to taste in the opening of our show is a spicy nut Pearson's salted nut roll.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Look. Is this like a chocolate bar that you could take out and hold in your hand, or is it something you have to eat in the package? What is the situation here?
I broke. Okay, look at it. I broke pieces
out. It's like a chocolate bar.
So it looks like
There's no chocolate, but it's like a sticky peanut roll.
Right. I mean,
there's
like
no chocolate
the shape of it. The shape of it.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's the shape of
spicy?
like a Snickers bar. But it's just like pure roasted peanuts on the outside, and then there's like this nuggety center. And the spicy one, it's a slow attack.
That has a
spicy.
Kick.
Yeah.
So the spicy is not meant for dessert, correct?
Well,
no, I mean, honestly, I'm eating this right now. You could eat this any time of the day. It's got spice. Wow. You could have this with a breakfast burrito, and it would be delicious. Oh my God!
Nothing about that sounds interesting to me. That sounds like a punishment, not a candy bar.
It's spicy peanuts, and like this white marshmallow nougat and caramel.
Oh my God, it sounds terrible. That sounds awful.
I think it sounds
amazing.
Delicious.
Sounds like a spicy Snickers with no chocolate.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's incredible. Yeah. And some sort of white saltwater taffy or something in the middle. Absolutely outstanding.
Wait, is this Canadian or is this?
No, this is from Chicago.
Very American.
Oh, it's from Chicago, and it's a special treat that she sent you because you can't get that where you live.
Beck, we should have done an influenced episode about this. This is.
I mean, I think we just did.
Yeah. I think this was a mini influenced.
Well, you have more flavors coming, which you are allowed to share with Becky.
How many flavors are there?
Well, there was churro flavor, which I didn't have yet.
Because it seems like they already put all the flavors in these two that you just mentioned.
There's spicy, there's churro, and then you also have coming your way, Shai, these two, apple pie and pumpkin pie.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yes.
I definitely want to try an apple pie nut roll.
Bar, not even it's a roll. Also the name, the roll.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was named by people who didn't know, who never saw Beavis and Butthead. Because a Pearson salted nut roll, you just want to tell fart jokes, and you want to tell things that belong in the gutter. So, salted nut roll, it is not of this age.
Yeah.
But it is, so how we got here is this is one of my co-host's favorite treats. And she was talking about how candy corn in a bowl mixed with roasted peanuts tastes like a Pearson's salted nut roll. So if you can imagine mixing high quality candy corn with dry roasted
and that's
peanuts.
a thing. Candy corn comes in the high quality variety.
Yes, if you get
I thought it was just the one. The one that
one
looked like
you get it with
earwax.
honey.
The orange.
Well,
You
no,
thought it was the orange.
When you get the candy corn that we're in October, we're recording this in October. It's the perfect time. When you get the candy corn that has the little pumpkin shaped ones and little candy corn gourds, I feel like that's the higher end because it has a wider variety of vegetables.
I've only seen the ones that look like triangles.
Well, Lily, you never really have had Halloween in the United States in your life.
That's
You've had it in Montreal, which had great chocolate bars. And you had it in Spain. Do you know, Leah, actually, I'm going to just take an aside. Leah, do you know that Lily brought Halloween to the Canary Islands?
She did.
And
she
then
single-handedly has brought Halloween to the Canary Islands.
And
oh my God.
then wait, had that disputed by a man who held a press conference to dispute it, Lily?
Well, he held a press conference saying that he was the one that brought it to Tenerife.
But we all know it was Lily.
So it's possible he came to Tenerife in the 80s. He may have brought it, but
he didn't sustain it.
You popularized it.
I popularized it.
So Lily, tell me about what does Halloween look like now that you've popularized it on the Canary Islands?
So it's principally about the two components. They only have extracted two components from it: dressing up.
Yeah,
but only as scary things.
It's terrifying.
So
Leah, I went to a children's Halloween party that Lily threw.
Were dressed as
and
Pennywise.
I honestly I had to go home. They were terrifying. These
but not
4-year-olds,
not
5-year-olds.
Pennywise as the Pennywise when the mouth becomes this like the spider monster.
Oh no.
So they super leaned into the dress up because they love a dress up party here and costumes and stuff, and they really leaned into like the scariness of Halloween, but that's kind of it. Like not so much the I guess there's some sort of candy, but there's no trick or treating,
right?
And they, I guess there's got to be like a few sexy kitten costumes somewhere, but that's not really the purpose of the holiday here.
The purpose is terror. It is
terror
to terrify.
And it's just normal candy. I've started to see people carrying around the like bucket pumpkins, but it doesn't seem that there's very much Halloween oriented candy for the holiday. It's just the normal candy. And the decorations are just horror decorations. There's not like the cute Halloween pumpkin pillows that people buy and like put on their sofa during Halloween or something. Yeah,
there's no market for Disney. There's no market for Disney princesses.
Not so much,
unless you make them like also Frankenstein or also a zombie.
Right.
True.
Right. Exactly. So they really are into like their horror culture here and dressing up. But I've actually only know of that one now. Can someone send me a picture of I'll just Google other candy corn because I'm very curious what the other candy corn looks like. I only know the one.
Well, all right, Lily. The other thing I think the audience is dying to hear about is because we've really been following your saga for the last 3 weeks. It's great when we have a cast host on because they always ask great questions too.
It's true.
You spent a year with our parents. You sent them home.
13 months.
You came back, spent 4 months with us, including our parents, which was amazing. It was the greatest gift you could have given us. Wonderful. Then you went back, but you took our parents with you. And really what the Friday Night Movie audience wants to know is...
I've given you.
Yeah, have you learned your lesson yet? Because all I get now are photos of mom and dad partying in various hotels and spas.
I've doubled down, brought my parents home with me, and raised by bringing my mother-in-law. So I've got mom and dad and my husband's mom. And let me just say that...
All in the house?
All in the house. No, I made my parents go to like an apartment for the week. I drew the line because my brother-in-law is also here and he's sleeping on a mattress on the floor in my office. So I drew the line at that many family members, and I put my parents up in a little apartment type thing for the week.
Does the apartment your parents are in have the correct size coffee cup?
What a callback. What a callback. What a callback. That's amazing.
It does not. And they had it's like an apartment hotel type thing. And my mom, I knew what she meant, but she just goes, the people in the reception brought us coffees to go in those really nice sized to go mugs, like those to go cups. Those like the perfect to go cup. And I'm like, I know, because I bet you the mug, the little, like a tiniest Spanish espresso mug in the room is not good enough.
Right.
So, yeah, but they run this town now, those two. They're just like eating jamon and jumping in swimming pools with my mother-in-law. Adorable.
That is true. I mean, how often do you get as a family just tons of bathing suit tanning photos of your mom and your sister's mother-in-law partying together?
We've had a lot
of hot
on the
dog
chat.
legs.
We've had a lot of those pictures today alone.
That's also for the non-existent Friday Night Movie Patreon. That will send you those pictures as well. Okay, well, assuming you haven't jumped off of subscribing to this show after all these years, we are going to premiere a new bit today, an outgrowth, if you will, an evolution of Buy Rent Meh, which is the signature.
I cannot believe it took this long.
And we are now, for the first time, we're going to introduce, there's Buy Rent Meh, we've done Bleh, but we are also going to add Sell. And the premise of Sell is as follows. Okay, and we're going to use this from now on, and Leah is going to be, gets to join in the fun of this first time, so we're so excited. So to sell a show is to jump off of that show, meaning you are no longer watching that show. You can maybe go back and get it later, but you have stopped watching it. And there's a lot of different reasons why you stop watching a show. You're bored, you hate it, you lose the thread, whatever it is. But we really want to hear the different folks on the show today expand on, what shows have you jumped off of that you're like, woof, good thing I jumped off at the right time? Are there shows you're considering jumping off of, and you go to someone and you maybe ask and say, should I stick with it, or should I just drop it? That kind of a thing. And are there shows that you sold too soon? You jumped off the show, but then you realize you should never have jumped off the show. Now you got to make up all the time. So with those rules set, Lily, do you want to start us off?
Sure, and I think that everybody here, I'm assuming Leah too, can agree that OBX, it was wise to sell at season 1 and jump off that train because the first episode of season 1 barely hung on, and it was a fun experience to watch, together, haha, text about it, laugh, say John B a million times, wear a bandana, ironically or not ironically, on a boat.
Not ironically.
Not ironically. However, the first episode of season 2 was so bad, and I could tell there's no way this was going anywhere interesting.
That's right. If it was a stock, you had to have sold it to make money on that. Mm-hmm. You had to have sold it
the first episode of season 2.
Yeah.
Because oof.
Right.
As soon as they end up in Nassau.
Right. So that was one, and then the other one that I had written down. The other one I had written down was, I was Ray Donovan. Shai, you also had that one, but I think I sold earlier than you, and I'm really comfortable. I feel like I made a lot of money on that show. I loved every single season that I watched up to. I thoroughly enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed everything about it. And then I sold a bit earlier than you, and I'm grateful because luckily you watched a little bit more and you were like, this went so bad, it's so boring. And I do not regret that at all because I can remember it where it was. And then I feel really proud of myself that I sold How I Met Your Mother fairly early on because when everybody was all in a huff about that ending, I was like, man, I don't give a shit.
I will say you could have taken that you could have taken that all the way to the episode before Insulted at its highest value before that last episode, and it still would have been worthy.
I'm not saying I made as much money as other people off that show, right? Because I sold pretty early, but I'm really glad I didn't lose my stock because I would have been mad about that ending.
That last episode's like the Black Monday of TV show endings. All right, Becky, take us. Becky.
Wait, sorry. Go ahead. I just want to quickly say that too late. I was too late on Dexter and Lost. I really lost the money on those two because I should have sold way earlier. I went all in. I doubled down on those shows. I was like, I'm in it, and I was so upset. I guess Dexter doesn't count now because there's going to be a new season, but I'm so annoyed. And then too soon for me is Harry Potter. I know it's not a show, but I sold my stock in like book 4, and then apparently I guess everybody read it and watched it. and now there's way too much for me to go back.
There's way too much.
But
J.K. Rowling is a turf, and she is.
I get.
It was like you sold the stock and then you watched it rise, and it has plummeted. And now you get to look smart that you sold early.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. So, yes, those are mine.
Those are great. Okay, that's a great list. And that's a good point Leah raises there. I think if you take J.K. Rowling out of the equation, Lily has had a lot of fun watching the existing core movies that were made before we knew that about J.K. Rowling with her nieces who are obsessed with them and give live 8 and 10-year-old commentary.
Right. They can fill in all the gaps of all the stuff that I now will never go back and read because I don't care. It's too much. So it's been a fun experience to have them be like the Coles Notes for Harry Potter.
Cole's Notes, by the way, Leah, are Cliff Notes, but for Canada.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Really? Cliff Notes. I'm sorry. That's like off-brand Canadian.
It was on brand for
you. I guess.
All right, Becky. How about you? What are some of yours?
The one I am most proud of is that I sold Dexter at the right time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At the point in which Deb's therapist convinces her that she's romantically in love with her brother Dexter, I was like, never watching another episode again. Sold. I was like, I'm done with this show. And you know what? I stand by it, and I was right. And even beyond myself, I skipped an entire season in the middle that was just didn't feel worth it.
I hear the John Lithgow show, the season is like the best one.
It is amazing.
It's a pretty good one, yeah.
Is that before or after this breaking point?
That's before. It's like a couple seasons before. And in
so if one wants...
Yeah, that would be like a good random season.
That's probably the highest.
I feel like the first season is probably the best.
First season and that season are amazing, and you could probably watch them as one-offs actually.
But like season 2 and 3 are pretty rocky. I think 3 is the one I skipped entirely. And then I did also sell OBX, but I have to say I watched the first 15-20 minutes maybe, or 10-15 minutes of the first episode of the second season, and I feel like I sold too late. Like I didn't even finish the episode, and I was like, I've sold too late on this. And the ones that I actually also do feel like I've sold too late, I'm going to bring it up again. I brought it up before. I'm going to bring it up again. Debris. I sold too late on that because there's no season 2. Everybody else watched 1 or 2 episodes and said, all right, this was cute. No thanks, and bailed. I watched the whole first season. There's no season 2. I'm still upset about that. And another one I think I sold too late is I don't even know if it's still on or if they continued to make seasons.
So I think they canceled it.
But the Netflix show Sabrina.
That's such a good one though, Beck, because I only watched the first season and I feel like I
watched the first at least 2 seasons. I don't remember how many there are, but
I watched the first season. I watched the Christmas episode where they had the three demon kings reenacting the Christmas story.
Oh.
And then I got to the part of season 2 when, in order to become part of the evil Hogwarts, all of the teenagers had to have an orgy. And I was like, nope, a blood orgy. It was a blood covered and I said,
that
nope,
show really took a
I'm
turn.
out.
I watched to the end of that season, and let me tell you, I sold too late. So the universe has me there.
All right, Leah.
That's it.
So,
take us to yours.
It was when you said blood orgy that I realized that this was not a TV show spinoff of the Audrey Hepburn movie Sabrina.
No.
I was like, this is
it's
not
the teenage
quite,
witch.
but like much darker.
It was like if they did Riverdale, but on a streaming service or HBO. So they're going to put a lot of sex in it, but they're still teenagers, so it's pretty gross that they did it that way.
Also, they tried to make it really dark, and then the first season they struck a great balance of keeping in with like the comic and like the cutesy.
Yeah, and then the second season just gets icky.
It's really gross.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
super creepy.
I've been editing this the whole time we've been talking because I'm like, I understand the game. I don't understand the game. I understand the game. But okay, here are some shows I think I quit at the right time.
You make the rules, Leah. You are defining. This is the pilot episode.
I'm looking at your list, and I'm just strongly disagreeing off the bat, but it's your list, so you go ahead. You do you.
I think I left.
I'm going to back you up. Leah.
Grey's Anatomy. What
would be the right time?
I mean, like, what would be the right time? There is no time to leave that show.
Except the COVID season. This past season is the one season. And I'm not leaving. I'm just skipping. So I'd sold some stuff, but I'm not pulling all my money out. I'm still in.
Wait, which season did you leave?
Yeah.
I probably left in like the 4th or 5th season.
That's a pretty good time to leave.
That's way too early.
I mean,
I gotta say, I skipped
think
seasons 5
was
through
still
like
alive. 8. Isn't he dead now? Like, they started killing people, and that's when I was like,
started killing people. Let me tell you, they never stopped.
Right. So I was there for, I think, Meredith and McDreamy getting married, and they got married, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of.
On a Post-it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I watched Grey's Anatomy. I feel like was it on possibly the same night as Alias? Because I stuck with Alias all the way to the end, and I feel like
that's how old Grey's Anatomy is.
It's 18 years old.
18 years old.
No,
that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It was past the expiration date on a TV show.
I skipped this season because I did not want to watch anything about COVID. But
it was pretty bad season.
Yeah, but I'll give it another shot.
And then I think Blackish I was with until the kids started going to college and they started doing all the spinoffs. I love Blackish. I thought it was a really fun show. But once they were doing the where the daughter had her college spinoff, and then we lost Charlie on the main show, and he was like one of the best characters on the main Blackish. And then they did Mixedish, the Rainbow spinoff. I kind of couldn't keep up anymore. It was a lot of spinoffs, and I think it
was a big shared universe.
It was a big shared universe, and I think anytime you've got kids that are growing up that are the center of a show, you have to deal with college. You got to bring on new kids. But I kind of like the way the Goldbergs dealt with it a little bit better, and I realize that just sounds like I'm slipping shy of 20. But by having the kids,
they're on the same network.
They're on the same network. No, it's I love that because it was like Blackish, Goldbergs, and
the Speechless. Oh, the Speechless also. Right? Was it Speechless?
And
is that the same universe?
No, but it was
they were
all
just
the same
on
night
the
on ABC.
Oh, okay.
Fresh off the boat.
That show. I was sad. Canceled.
Yeah, I felt like that was a nice mix of family comedies, like bringing back the family sitcom. But I can't I watched their first COVID episode of Blackish, and I was like, I think I'm done.
Right.
And then as I was thinking about, so here's one I don't know how to put into it. Have any of you watched The Circle on Netflix?
No,
I've heard about it.
but I know which one it is.
People are very into
no,
it.
wait, sorry. On Netflix, right? No, people are very into it.
It's like a
the social
reality
media
show where people do things to each other on
Like,
social
Isn't
media.
it like a social media reality thing?
It's this, yeah. Netflix brought us into manifested COVID. I firmly believe, because Netflix launched Love is Blind, which was about people dating, but they couldn't see each other, and The Circle, which was about people living in isolation and only contacting each other through social media. And those two reality shows came out like 2 months before, or like a few weeks before COVID. So Circle season 1, outstanding, because nobody knew what the game was yet.
Yeah,
nobody knew what the game was. The second season, which they shot during COVID, was interesting, but they like didn't mention that these people like were living in isolation during COVID, and we'd all already been living in isolation. They kind of like didn't break the fourth wall on that. And now they're on their third season, and I watched one episode, and I'm like, I just can't care about these. I can't care about this game anymore.
Would you recommend the first season?
The first season is so fun. I think I went one episode too late.
Thing?
Jocelyn, my co-host, loves it. She's loving it. Season 3. They add twists. There's some really. Season 1 is outstanding. Season 2 is very good.
Cool.
Season 3, I was like, everybody's horrible. I hate you all. So, so I think I must have sold it too late because I let it sour my opinion on the franchise.
Yeah.
That's fair. Most reality TV, though, for me, I don't get involved. I'm not interested in real people. I think it's the same reason why I'm interested in nobody's COVID episodes.
Right.
I'm not interested in anyone's COVID episodes. You're going to do a COVID season. You're very brave. Thank you for telling the story of our history. People will watch it in school many years later and look at it as a picture of its time. Mm-hmm. But I promise the ratings will have been garbage. If you go back and look at the ratings from that time, no one will have watched them. No one wants to see the tragedy as it's unfolding.
Yeah. So things that I stuck with too long. Mad Men, I watched it all the way to the end. I watched it after it was completed. I didn't watch it when it was on the air. I watched all the seasons of it.
I definitely jumped off.
So you could have known, but you did it anyways.
I did it anyways. Yeah.
I sold it at episode 6, right after Maggie Siff came in, and they were also trying to buy the book Exodus. There was like all this, right after that. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy that show at all. But wow, but it kind of bumped to the end. Yeah.
I stuck with it all the way, and I should have just enjoyed like season 1 for the fashion, for the like, oh my God, the world was crazy then. Instead of I wasn't rooting for anyone at the end, which is what I learned. And why I jumped off White Lotus when I did, because they were all awful. And I know you guys loved it.
We loved it. I'm curious about this.
I thought there was only one person worth redeeming, and from what I've heard, he is redeemed, the autistic son.
I don't think he's
autism. They don't ever diagnose that?
Yeah.
No, I think they were just being terrible to him.
He's just
awkward. I don't think he's on the spectrum. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Although...
So the ostracized son, who is treated like poop by his family.
True.
I was just, I have read the articles. I've spoiled it for myself. I've listened to all the podcasts, and I feel like even 2 episodes was too many. They were all horrible people, and there was nothing to care about any of them.
That was the big reveal. I will say Mike White who I do love, in his interview, in the really good interview, I think it's in Variety with him, where he says, people don't usually like my shows. They're critically acclaimed, but nobody watches past the first or second episode. So I threw a murder mystery in the first episode this time to get people to keep watching. But it wasn't really, it worked, but it wasn't really necessary for the story. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why it putters to the end. But
I mean, it sounds like he got some good feedback and he listened.
Right.
Yeah. Some good. I would like to see other seasons, like a Twisted Love Boat, where people come back to, like, different groups of people come to the White Lotus and staff changeover. I'm interested in that. Yeah. I see. That's where I would hang with it. But okay, all right, what else you got for us?
The last thing I'm just gonna say, which I timed poorly, is I have only seen Hobbs and Shaw and Fast and Furious 9. And I missed the boat on the Fast and Furious franchise. There's so much. I have listened now to hours of podcasts about the whole franchise that I could have spent just watching the movies.
All of the How Did This Get Made episodes are better than the movies.
And Newcomers just did it with Nicole Byer and John Gabris.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah. But I feel like that's an international phenomenon that I wish I had not poo-pooed at Tokyo Drift and been like, you're making my life working on marketing for Nissan harder. Like, dumb movie. I had to write social media reports on, like, forums about people drifting and give feedback to people at Nissan about, like, the impact of the movie Tokyo Drift on their market. Like, I could not watch the movie. So I feel like I'm in limbo.
That's amazing.
That is hilarious.
Here's my counterculture, like, and my wife as well, because my wife and I have watched all these movies. For some reason, she loves them. We went to see the 9th one in that brief period when you could go to a movie theater.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater,
safely.
Yeah.
And it was like a roller coaster ride, and she giggled from the first moment to the end. It was by far the one we enjoyed the most. But yeah, we tend to like the second one, which is the most reviled by everyone, and the third one, Tokyo Drift, because a lot of the best stuff that they've held on to was from Tokyo Drift. Even the guy who directed Tokyo, Han. But the director of Tokyo Drift is the guy who ended up saving the franchise,
right?
Jason Lin, and so that movie is kind of Justin Lin. That movie's really important. But Hobbs and Shaw is pretty atrocious, and I love the actors in it. I don't think you need to go back, though. And I would watch Tokyo Drift because it's actually pretty funny and enjoyable. But I do not think Vin Diesel, I remember seeing Vin Diesel in the movie Boiler Room back in Lille. Do you remember that movie?
Mm-hmm, yeah,
we were talking about it the other day.
And I remember thinking, this guy could be the next Marlon Brando. He's amazing. And he's not. Or I don't know. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to upset Vin Diesel if he ever listened to this podcast. I'd love to talk to him because he's a talented guy. But the stuff that he does in these movies is so meme-worthy. I can't get enough of any of the family memes of him using the word family. It's amazingly family. It's so ridiculous. So I think you're just fine with the 9th one.
Okay.
And go watch the 3rd one for Han, because he's pretty cool. Yeah. All right, so I agree on OBX. Ray Donovan, I don't remember which season it is, but there's a season where it starts off with his wife is dead, but they're doing a lot of flashbacks.
Right, I jumped out before that.
That was the point where I'm like, I am out. This investment is now underwater. This investment is now underwater. Should not have kept watching it. And there are great performances in that show. Some of the actors are incredible, but that show
it's just not what you signed up for.
Like, I wanted a guy fixing things in LA and trying to get out of the crime life. And I liked his cool Israeli bodyguard friend, but no, didn't work. I'm going to go bold, and this is where I get really controversial. But I say this again because I'm now rewatching Parks and Rec with the kids, and I will stand by forever that it is by far the superior show to The Office. And as you go over time and Parks and Rec, which is about public service and the tension between big and small government, the show really is about this dialogue between Ron and Leslie Knope, right? That is at the core of the show. And The Office, which is basically about a bunch of lazy people who do terrible things to each other in a toxic workplace. But it is a very funny show. But if you made the mistake of watching that last season, I feel like you're just really, really screwed. Because some people, I think that your investment already goes down when Michael Scott leaves the show. Everybody's sold when Michael Scott left the show, right? But I saw a lot of value in the Robert California season. I thought that one was fun. But that 8th season is so terrible. It's a season long of How I Met Your Mother. So for me, that's when I should have gotten off. I should have gotten off. For the money, I should have gotten off in that Michael Scott season. For at least my belief in the product, I would have stayed through and sold after Robert California. Then there's this little show we watched, Misfits, on Hulu, which was like a British X-Men type show. And the first 3 seasons of it were fantastic. And then they rewrote it, like they redid the cast essentially.
Oh, and really? I guess I never watched past. I think the first.
It seemed like a good show. I really liked it.
It was really, really, really cool. And then they realigned the show in the 4th season and dropped one of the main characters, and I stopped watching it. Bummer.
Oh man.
And then Lily, I'm just going to say this now. I don't know if you're up on it, but I'm getting a little worried about Billions. I figure that's a great way to end with buy and sell, right? I'm getting a little bit worried about Billions.
Don't, because you kept watching and I stopped watching.
I'm just saying that Billions, which is a show that I would say fluctuates as much as the stock market it covers. But right now,
I think we're the only ones that watch the show too. So that's
Leah, have you ever watched Billions?
I have not.
That is a show that even if you weren't ever inclined to, it will make you want to go out and occupy, not just Wall Street, just occupy things. Because the lesson of that show is that there's a class of people who will consistently win and know more than everyone else. And then there are legal people who will go after them. And the only way that they'll be able to go after them is by corrupting themselves so much that they are criminals too. So it's a very heavy indictment of our capitalist society. But there are really great characters. But that show really starts to fall apart if those characters start to do things that the whole time you are watching the show you really wish they wouldn't do. And that's all I would say. And it's starting to just become a cliched bummer. And I'm really, really, really bummed about where it's going to this inevitable place that you wish. I feel like if they don't have something more creative up their sleeve, then I'm going to be really bummed about the 5 years I've put into this show. Now, to segue to a show I think all of us have bought, or at least put a little bit of time and energy into, although I don't know if Leah's bought this show. I know, I feel like Leah's someone I know who studies the world of comedy more than most people I know. So I really want to hear Leah's and your portfolio analysis of this show. And that is Hacks on HBO, a show I had not heard of. I assume it's one of my sisters who told me to watch it. Lily, I guess, because we watched it together. Starring Gene Smart and woman whose name...
I'll take the credit.
And Hannah Einbender. Einbender, who is from SNL, I believe.
Her mom.
And her mom's Lorraine Newman, right?
Yes.
Her mom's Lorraine Newman. That's it. And it is about and it's situated for people. It is about a longtime veteran of comedy who has an established show in Vegas, and a young up-and-comer Gen Z. Is she supposed to be Gen Z or millennial?
She's totally Gen Z. I did a rewatch in preparation for today.
Okay, so she's Gen Z. I sometimes just get confused with the ages. She's Gen Z, who is an up-and-coming writer who has a big faux pas and is looking to rehabilitate her career. So her agent sends her down to write for Jean Smart's character, Deborah Vance, and it is a study of the business of comedy as well as, I think, a really enjoyable study of an intergenerational tension that is going on a lot right now, which is the boomers and the Gen Z and everyone in between. But I think it's unique in history in the sense that the boomers are probably the generation that will have lived the longest in their lifetime. And so they have to cohabit the workplace, not with just with the generation right after them and the generation right after them and the generation right after them, but 5 generations down to Gen Z and probably 1 or 2 more. And so you're seeing this play out all in the world of comedy. And so that's the premise of the show. But I want to hand it to Leah to just give us your reaction to the show, and then we'll all go around and give some thoughts.
I loved it. I grew up on Designing Women, so I kind of missed that Jean Smart never stopped acting, and all these shows that she's been in between
24. She was amazing in 24.
I didn't watch it. She's amazing in everything she does. But for me, I was like, oh my gosh, the woman from Designing Women is back and she's doing stand-up comedy and this is amazing. So in my 20s, I did stand-up comedy and I tried it again in my 40s. I've been listening for 3 years to the Jackie and Laurie Show, which is a podcast by 2 women who have both been doing stand-up comedy on the road for 30 years. So I think a lot about what it's like to be a woman in comedy and stand-up comedy. And I learned about this from the Jackie and Laurie Show, and I loved it. I think it presents the something that Jackie and Laurie talk about. So it's Jackie Cation and Laurie Kilmartin talk about is how every generation of women, like boomers, put up with more. I'm trying not to cuss.
No, you can cuss. As Leah always reminds people, it's explicit.
Why? Okay.
It's explicit. Why would you? Don't work so hard. Just let it roll.
All right. Boomer women ate shit so Gen X women could eat less shit. Gen X women ate shit so millennials could eat less so Gen Z could eat less. And Gen Z looks at us and I think this is a great example of every generation takes on a lot to try and make it better for the next generation, even though you can't flip a switch. So there's stuff that I heard and put up with when I did stand-up comedy that women coming up today who are in their 20s today, like, don't have to put up with. So I really appreciated that it showed that. I think what frustrated me about press around the show is that people think that, like, Joan Rivers is the only stand-up comic you can talk about. And if you do the math, Jean Smart is 1 or 2 years different from like Roseanne Barr or Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, wow.
Those are the women comics you have to think of to fit the trajectory of the Deborah Vance character. That if Roseanne Barr had just gone to Vegas and gotten a residency, or Ellen DeGeneres, like those are the women that would have been her peers. And so this is not she's not the first generation of women doing stand-up. She's in like the second generation. So she's not a Mrs. Maisel contemporary. She's a Roseanne contemporary. And I think once you reframe it as that, like that helped for me. But I love it. I love that she's making her bread and butter. I love how hard she works to keep her career. You know, you
mean all the side hustles, all the other, all the endorsements and side hustles and things that she's doing. Yeah. And she takes very seriously. Like when she's opening a mall or something like that, or a Starbucks.
It's like
a pizza parlor.
It's a pizza thing.
It's like a new pizza chain.
And the Gen Z kid is disgusted and she's like, it's a job. And you show up. It's show business.
Well, yeah. And Marcus is also like, it's $100,000 in stock. Like, this is a business.
But I just feel like, it captures that also what you're saying, like, okay, each generation chipped away at it for the next one and for the next one. But what I loved about the show is how it captures the way Gen Zers look back at every generation, I'm not saying universally, but how it represents a certain attitude. And I'm sure we're all guilty of it in our own way, in our, for our own generation. But how easy it is for her to look back and be like, ugh, I can't believe you. Right. I can't believe you would go open this pizza parlor. I can't believe you did all these things, or you didn't stand up for yourself when people were harassing you. Like, kind of turn your nose up and be just as it. And like, there's no appreciation for the path that has been created by all these previous generations of women. And I don't know, at least it brings to TV, it brings to life that the tension between the generations really, really well.
If I can jump in quick, what I really liked about it is that that's so clear, and I think everybody can kind of cringe at that and appreciate that point of view. And then, to me, the best line of the show is when Deborah says to her when they're in the desert, and the car breaks down. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear.
Just double checking my internet.
We're listening.
Just double checking.
We're enraptured in your storytelling.
Right. So Deborah and Ava, right? Is this Ava? Mm-hmm. Are in the car. Yeah, the car breaks down. They're having an argument in the desert before the helicopter picks Jean Smart up, which is amazing. Deborah Vance and Ava's like, but you know what? I'm good. Like, she's young, but she's good at her job, and she's good. She's talented. And when she turns around and she says, "They're good is the minimum. It's the baseline." You have to be so much like that's. Of course, you're good. Like, you have to be fucking good. Like, what are you talking about? That's not it. That's the beginning. You're good, and then you have to have all this grit and ambition and drive and thick skin. And that is, to me, that encapsulates the show, the whole point of it, of just sort of like holding up this mirror to, yes, they broke down so many barriers, but when did everybody get kind of soft, or, for lack of a better way to say it? Or when did everybody,
get entitled? I think that's what you're talking about. Maybe the word, like, when did everyone get so entitled?
Or lose, that the talent.
I'm good, so therefore shouldn't I have whatever opportunity I want? No, you're good and work harder than everyone else, and then you get the opportunities.
And maybe not even then. And so, yeah, I thought that was such a great sort of overall point of the show.
I also,
not just about an annoying Gen Zer.
I also enjoyed that it's not like it was one side or the other. I felt like it was a really cool ping pong match the whole time.
Yes. Right, you're getting both points of view.
Both points of view. Sometimes one was more right than the other. Sometimes one would inch one way or another. And, maybe it airs a little bit more side on, respecting the history and what someone like Jean Smart went through. But I think that's also true. But one of the scenes that I think brings this all together is Becky made the point of how Ava is looking at Deborah saying, why didn't you intervene so many years ago as a bystander in a Me Too type situation? And then Deborah Vance makes the decision in present day, when she's on the road, to go and take down the male comedian who is accosting or kind of, it's something that I've been reading about lately, which is
the only hack we see in the whole show. He is the only hack comedian we see. He's. I'm sorry. I'm going to turn my video on for a second. I am getting a lot of.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
This is Caesar. He's my nephew's cat. Yeah, when she takes down that loser middling MC in Sacramento.
And there's but it refers to something that I feel like I've read about recently with some of the scandals that have come out with certain stand-ups, and again, Leah, you would be able to speak to this a little bit more, which is these male hosts or MCs sort of trying to either trade or insinuate that if they get a certain type of attention, then they'll be able to give people better stage time or help their careers.
Absolutely. There was a guy who ran a number of rooms when I did stand-up comedy in Chicago, who all the women knew that he traded stage time for blowjobs. And so I was never on his stages. He was so gross. You know, he was eventually arrested for public indecency. But absolutely, when I was doing comedy in like 03, 04, like, and he ran like 3 rooms in Chicago. And like, that's...
I'm sure like that, unfortunately, those stories probably are more common than not.
So that's recent too. That's not even when Deborah Vance was coming up, right? So Deborah Vance makes the decision to intervene here and use her juice, right? Because she's on the road trying out new material. She's so rich, right? She's able to buy him off and essentially buy him out from ever being a comedian ever again. What's everybody's reaction to her decision? Because I think that's where Ava really does make an impact on her, which is, okay, you did eat all of this shit in the past. Right. You did eat this shit in the past, and
give
now...
Ava some credit, you know.
Right. And then she decides to use her power in that moment. What's the reaction? Is that something that we're seeing more and more now in comedy? Is that something that landed well in the story? I think it did. I thought it was very cool. I think it was in some ways Jean Smart recognizing that, she has the power to do this and she can do it and enjoy it in a way that she wasn't willing to step out and take that kind of risk before.
Yeah, I mean, I cheered when she did it, but he's also like a small fish, right? She's not doing it to her peer. She's not, he's not a man with any power, but she does see that he's being as slimy as the guys that came before him, and that she can pluck this one bad apple right out of the bushel. But I like, it was a really empowering moment because you want to see those men taken down. But in reality, if you run an open mic, if you run a room, if you run a comedy club, you've got to not book those guys, or you've got to yank them from stage when they say those things. And it takes a lot of work. It's an incredible amount of labor to keep those guys out of a room.
I like the fact that she took him down, and even though he is a small fish, it is impacting the people in that orbit. So I appreciated that. But what not bothered me about the scene, but I found problematic is the idea that he's still being rewarded for his bad behavior. There is a financial payoff, and to a small fish, that's a big chunk of money. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also part of the mentality is, well, we could just pay people to go away, you know? And yes, I understand he's in publicly admitting he'll never make it in comedy. He is a failure. You know, he is a hack. Got it. Like, point taken. But I wish there was a way. I have to imagine they chose for her to do that, to buy him off very deliberately. But I think it also says something that even when we banish someone or we cancel them, oftentimes they still are rewarded. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the way our system is built right now. So it's a reflection of that.
Right. Yeah. Someone gets kicked off of one network and then some other network runs to sign them.
Or they get paid off a huge chunk of money to go away, but great. Now they have...
I mean, I don't want to take it like as far as Bill Cosby, but you know, he's obviously been canceled, but still, any time, you know, he's fine. He's doing fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's a huge,
just like, any of these,
that's a very extreme example, but like,
I can't think of.
I think
right, yeah, or and kids sold out rooms.
But and not even like a Louis C.K., but like people who are forced to leave their network or leave their job, but they're paid off to do so in the tens of millions of dollars. Like, I don't really get what they lost.
Or Bill O'Reilly, like a Bill O'Reilly, exactly, like a Bill O'Reilly package was enormous. You know,
that's what it makes me.
I thought the scene was. I think what's so good about the scene is that it causes you to have this conversation. It is problematic, and they're no dummies. They obviously wrote this so brilliantly because. It's done in such a way that you're right. He's humiliated, and the money means nothing to her, which makes her powerful. right? This is not a big deal for her because she's so powerful in terms of her financial situation. But it's also, I also thought it was interesting the way that she didn't, like you said, she didn't go to the manager of the club and say, I'll sue you if he's ever in here again, or we'll take you down. Like, she didn't go to the root of the problem. And I feel like she's just dipping her toe into fighting back and kind of miss the point, which happens so many times.
But I also think
people from a different generation.
I think,
and I want to see her, grow with that.
One of the things it loses is she says, you all have your phones out. You're all taking videos. So while Ava is paying the ultimate price for a bad tweet, which honestly, nobody's getting kicked out of a writer's room for a
right.
joke
that
like
was a big,
that, right? That was not a big enough fuck up.
Faux pas.
And so there's a whole storyline that is untold about those videos going viral, the tweet storms that happen after people see it. Like, there's a whole side of the comedy world that is just the aftermath of that moment would have had repercussions, because she makes sure everyone has their phone out and records it and they post it on social media. So it's not an isolated event.
And that's a whole other thing in the comedy world, is the controversy over whether or not the shows should be right, because is it Chappelle who has people put the cell phone in the bags before they come? And I mean, that's a whole other interesting component. I will say it gives us room to grow, because it's interesting to see, okay, what's she going to do in the next season? What's she going to do the next time this pops up? What's the next evolution in this relationship? So I'm excited for that.
Can I make one other comment about
the other? Oh yeah.
Sure, I know we're going long, and I know that baby's got to go to bed and stuff.
That's okay.
But
That's okay.
There's one of the things I've learned from listening to the Jackie and Laurie show is they didn't know each other before they started their podcast, because women weren't ever booked on the same show before 5 years ago. Like, women comics weren't friends with other women comics because they were never booked in the same room. So that relationship she has with the woman, like the economics of comedy in the 80s, she wouldn't have booked a woman opener. She would have booked a man, and she wouldn't have a long-standing friendship with a woman in comedy. And so that was one thing that I was like, that I have learned from listening to Jackie and Laurie, is that, you know, one of the things that young women comics, younger women get today, is that they get to have relationships with other women in comedy. And that was withheld from the boomers and elder Gen X.
It's good to know, actually.
Oh, wow.
Which is a very good piece of history to understand.
Right, because now you have, I feel like, so many, and so many, but the team ups, the female comedy team ups are so special in terms of how much, like, Maya Rudolph, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, to name a few. Those dynamics are so. I mean, you have the female Ghostbusters movie. Is it just called Ghostbusters? I don't know what that's called, but
yeah,
it's called Ghostbusters.
It's just called Ghostbusters. The female Ghostbusters. The girls one, right? And yeah, I'm obviously kidding. And so I think we take that a little bit for granted, honestly. Even us. I mean, or even me at my age. And I think that that's pretty cool that it's normal, so much more normal. But 5 minutes ago, that wasn't possible. And that's another layer of this show that's important to remember.
Yeah.
So, to your point, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
The other thing I wanted to just touch on before we close out the show is, I don't think we can talk about the show without talking about Caitlin Olsen as DJ the daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And just all of the dimensions that are brought in of the daughter's character. I think she's one of the most complicated and interesting elements of the show, because it's this contrast. There's sympathy, there's privilege, there's nastiness, but there's also a lot of love and loyalty. It's a very, very, very I enjoyed the unsettling nature of that character and the relationship so much. And I thought she was great in it. And I love Caitlin Olsen. And I love that character.
I also liked the way they peeled it back slowly over the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great piece of development.
I'm excited to see where, and I like that they didn't do something obvious like make her and Ava best friends overnight, right? Nothing landed obviously. No relationships were super easy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note,
I just want to say one thing. I do also really like, on just going back to that for a second, how when you finally see that Deborah had brought her on the road with her, which she then says like messed her up.
Mm-hmm.
It's because she didn't want to be without her.
Yeah.
And while it was probably selfish and maybe not the right parenting choice, she didn't want to be without her kid. And that to me was like a really big gut punch because the parents mess up their kids all the time. But like fuck for female comics or female performers, actors, whatever, or lawyers or surgeons or whatever it is, that is a crucial component. And she was just trying to she just wanted to keep her baby with her. And I think that is, and it was not great for the kid. Yeah. And I just think that was a really important reveal. And what is this show, like 6 episodes or 8 episodes? And it's teased out.
It's so short.
Well. It's so short, but it's so well done. Teasing that out.
If you want to have your mind blown, her peer equivalent almost would be like Pauly Shore. Because Pauly Shore grew up in the
comedy club.
Yeah,
right?
His mom was like Mitzi. It's not the Cellar in LA. But he grew up in a comedy club.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one other thing,
it's a really interesting analogy.
And it's something I only just found out, like in the last month, maybe. So Jen Statsky, who's one of the creators of the show, there were a lot of times when I watched it through the first time, when Ava did something that made me so uncomfortable that I had to turn off the episodes. There's at least 2 or 3 times where she leaves a bad voice. She leaves a voicemail. She makes a choice.
Does some very cringy things where I'm like, no good. I would have to turn it off because I was so upset. And I just saw that Jen Statsky was a writer on Broad City for like 4 years, which is a show.
Right, it's the same. Yeah,
it's the same cringe.
And I think it's the same producer as as Broad City too, as well.
I don't know what else we have time to get into, but I need to just get. Oh wait, Shai, I know what, I'll let you go. You're hosting. I'm not going to try and intervene.
No. I have
an honorable mention.
I have a more flexible schedule than you both.
I understand that Lily has to go, but I need to just take a moment to talk about how obsessed I am with the Jimmy Kayla dynamic and the timing and the writing and everything about the Jimmy Kayla relationship kills me. I mean, it's incredible. It's so funny. So,
oh my gosh,
that's my favorite.
When they get to Vegas, and she's like, "But I told Daddy it was my first trip. There are no other rooms. I got us the honeymoon suite. Are you upset with me?"
When I don't remember if he says it to Ava or who, and he goes, "I'm having a Me Too moment.
Me Too moment.
I'm the Me Too. I'm the Me."
I do enjoy that the agent. I do enjoy that the agent for once isn't like a complete jerk. Mm-hmm. And that he's trying to do right by his client, both of his clients. He's not.
He cares about as much as about the veteran.
Not another Ari Gold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and he is actually really nice to Kayla too, even though she's an idiot. Like he is pretty nice to her. Yeah. That is true. I'm curious what you guys think of the Marcus character. Because is the only character I didn't really have my finger on.
Mm-hmm. Marcus makes me think of Tom. He makes me think of Tom Hagen in The Godfather. He wants to, he has his own legitimate business ideas, but he's not exactly a gangster he's not exactly like everybody else. He's a businessman. He's not a comedy guy.
Is Tom the lawyer who's sent away because he's not a wartime consigliere?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's what I think of Marcus. I think Marcus is a businessman who's the CEO of her company, but he's not an artist.
The show is so well done that they even have time somehow to give us a little bit of insight into his family life, his mom. No one is just a one-off rando character. Oh, we need even Kayla. We find out her dad is actually the owner of the agency. Like everybody, even though maybe she's the most like basic or one-dimensional, maybe Jimmy too. But I feel like it's pretty impressive that a Marcus character I think is normally just the throwaway token. The assistant who maybe he's going to be the bad guy and he's going to foil Ava, sort of just that role there. But they give us a little bit more of him.
Something that's interesting about the Marcus role is they don't make him the magical Negro.
No,
he's
true.
He went to one of her shows, was a massive fan, got swept up into her business, took on her marketing, and just her business, her comedy became his whole life. And so I've certainly have had those workaholic years. I related to that of where you're not having relationships and you're just hustling, but also he doesn't even put all of his eggs in the Deborah basket, right? He's
hustling. He has his own
real estate business, which I think is really interesting. I do like that they have him trying and failing at a relationship and
right. And his relationship fail is not just because he's a workaholic. There's other stuff going on there, which is he's a flawed character, but an important character too, and it gives us also a sight on Deborah with treating people in her inner circle a certain way too, which is important, for her character. I think it's.
And it's probably one of the only shows I can think of where a Black gay lead character is the only character with a positive relationship with their parent. Like that scene at the end where his mom is holding him because he's sad that he's CEO now, but he's been broken up, and his mom just hugs him and kisses him on the forehead. He's the only one.
I don't know if you ever saw 6 Feet Under. I don't know if you ever saw 6 Feet Under, but I don't remember what Keith's family background is, but I thought his character is so phenomenal as a strong Black gay man who is also very vulnerable, but was a cop. I thought there's very few examples like that on television. Yeah. So I thought I thought his character was very. I thought it was interesting.
I was going to say, I feel like I should have sold 6 Feet Under before maybe those last couple of seasons where her name?
I love
when Peter Krause's girlfriend gets super weird. I mean, she really goes off the rails.
I love that show.
But that's got some strange storylines. It's the perfect
ending.
Finale.
Yes, it is. I will say it is the best perfect finale. It's one of the best finales.
Of any show.
Yes, that I agree with. But you gotta get through some.
You do have to slog through some tough episodes there. Yeah. But anyway, I'm so glad we all like this show.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Well, I feel like that's going to be our
tall order for season 2, though, guys. Tall order.
Yeah,
that's true. But that will be. I mean, that's going to be our buy of the week. We haven't done it in a few weeks, but that's going to be our buy of the week. It's going to be Hacks. But we also have lots of other recommendations. Lily, what are you? What are you shouting out and wrecking?
Okay, so I keeping with the line of the show here today. Billy Crystal and Tiffany Haddish have a new build as a comedy.
Right. I want to see that.
Really?
Yeah, I sold on the first 5 minutes and I barely got my money out. So I'm curious if anybody else wants to give it a try and roll the dice. I was on a plane, so maybe I just was.
You
not
weren't
in
liking it? No good.
I lasted 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and I was.
I like Billy Crystal, but I'm not sure. We still new Billy Crystal is.
I love her and I love him. I don't think you could tell right away if they had good chemistry. I did not see the chemistry, And I think it was billed as a comedy, and I could tell already that it was going into like a very sad drama area. And I was like, nope, not here today, not happening. And then so I sold that. So I don't know, like it's not a recommendation. I haven't actually watched it. I really liked Together. We talked about it last week, guys, with Ed Helms, and her last name is Harrison, but I forget her first name, the actress. I don't know if that movie is problematic. I really don't know. At this point, I can't tell, but I think it gives just some insight into loneliness, and I enjoyed it. And then we watched The Quiet Place 2 last night. Give John Krasinski an Oscar. Jesus.
What?
Whoa, wow, that's a leap.
I just don't.
Wow, that is not a movie I had any interest in seeing.
No, watch it. It's so fun. I'm sorry, there are not suspense/horror movies that are enjoyable and keep you on your toes and make you interested in the characters made anymore. That is not.
Did you watch with both sides of the family?
I watched Obsessed In-Law Family and Mom. Dad took his iPad and went into the kitchen.
You cut out.
You cut out. We missed you there. What happened?
Oh, sorry. I watched with my horror-obsessed family, like my in-law family, who is obsessed with horror films, and Mom. And Dad refused to watch because he said it was too scary. So he took his iPad into the kitchen and watched something else by himself. But
he would have done that no matter what.
But then he came into the end. He could tell the end was coming, and he like pops his head and he goes, "Oh, good, we're at the end part. I don't have to watch anything scary." And he came and sat down. But as he was coming to the couch, he actually snuck up on Mom and scared her while she was watching the movie.
No,
and that was probably the best part.
On purpose?
Yeah, he like snuck up and like booed her as she was like focusing on the ending of this movie and scared the shit out of her,
was very impressive.
My in-law family thought it was like a cute Disney movie for kids, and Mom thought it was the most terrifying horror movie she's ever seen. So it was amazing. She was jumping off the couch, yelling all kinds of like shits and like, oh shit, that one scared me. Look, I don't know if this movie is really that good now that I'm saying it out loud, because my experience was special watching it with all these people. But I actually, I buy it. I thought he did a great job as a sequel. Sequels are so hard to do. And so I recommend it.
Well, I'm interested to see it because I'm interested in seeing a good sequel.
Yeah, I think it's a great sequel.
All right.
The ending can be a little bit sloppy, but who cares? It's good. I enjoy it.
I mean, those aliens were just...
That's whatever. Aliens at this point, the fact that no one's been able to make up a new alien, I don't know what to say. We all look the same. That's fine.
Well, but the aliens from that are just the bad guys from Venom. I just want you to know.
And Stranger Things. It's the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. There was like in Hollywood, there was like one alien that we were using this year. That's all they could afford. Like everybody, this is the alien. So, but the alien's like whatever. Unless you're watching the movie Alien, I don't care what the actual alien is. It's not gonna be cool.
That's true.
So that's my recommendation.
All right, Leah, what are you watching? What do you recommend or listening to? Because you always have the best podcast recommendations.
Mine are all pretty podcast oriented. I think you guys have talked about Only Murder in the Building.
Yeah.
Right. Martin Short, Steve Martin, Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez?
Yep.
Yeah.
Selena Gomez.
Okay.
Love it.
So good. Really enjoying it. If people are listening to this because they're my friends and don't regularly listen, they need to go back and listen to Lily's 2 episodes about infertility.
Thank you.
They were so powerful.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, I'll wreck it to you. But as someone who, I'm a middle-aged Jewish woman, which means that all of my girlfriends, everyone in my minion needed fertility support. So it was a familiar story, but there's so much that we don't talk about, and I think breaking the taboos of I think breaking the silence on fertility treatments and miscarriage is so important. So I'm just really grateful you guys took the time to make that 2-episode story. And Lily, you were so brave for putting it, committing it to an episode.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. That's
we're
so nice.
we're really proud of Lil. We're really proud of Lil too, and we
proud
are thankful for anyone who took time to listen to it. It means a lot to us. So thanks, Leah.
Absolutely.
2 other podcasts, the Jackie and Laurie Show. Since we're talking about hacks, again, 2 women. If you want to learn about the business of stand-up and why no stand-up worth their salt would have gone into a major show like that without taking a single joke on stage, talk to Jackie and Laurie. They talk a lot about the process of writing jokes. It's outstanding. They never have guests. It's always just the 2 of them. Yusong Liu, who is was a producer on the Doughboys. He has a new podcast. Only 1 episode is out. It's called Millennial Shelter. And he's interviewing people about, the first one was about being on video. And he interviewed someone from YouTube. He interviewed Mike Mitchell. And so he's trying to take like different challenges and things that millennials are facing and do interviews about the experience. It's really interesting. So I want to recommend that. And then finally, I consume a lot of content, but I am not in the world of movie making, but I have been paying very close attention to the strike vote that's this weekend that we're recording in Hollywood. And the Instagram account IA_stories has been eye-opening. I had no idea how difficult working below the line in production was.
I do.
Yeah,
Becky does.
Becky does.
The people who make I could tell you I was not able to make a career out of it.
Yeah,
I wasn't. Because it's really inhumane. It is. When you see what's being created and the budgets of the jobs that you work on and what the crews are put through, it's so unnecessary. It is so wildly unnecessary. Yeah.
And I'll say this the top line actors, obviously their agents have to get them the most money and they are bankable, and that's part of it. And obviously the corporate people are evil and all of that. But when you talk about not just, and I know from Becky, it's not just the lack of job security and the crazy hours, but like just downright unsafe things people are put through. Just straight up unsafe things people are put through for their health, for their welfare, what they can afford when you're standing in the same room as people making millions of dollars for what, 6 weeks of work? Maybe 3 months worth of work. It's kind of insane. And I'm not someone who thinks Jeff Bezos has to give his. I'm not someone who thinks Jeff Bezos has to give his spaceship back. But it is kind of nuts.
Right. I don't think they need to pay, Robert Downey Jr. any less to be Iron Man. I just think they can also afford. I know they can also afford to pay the crews better and have longer schedules. Like, it's all possible.
Yeah,
that's not the
learned
reason.
about I'd never heard of the phrase turnaround time before, that they would rather pay the penalty on you not getting a lunch break than just
abusing the power.
It's they would prefer to just push through meals and go late and pay the penalties on that than to add another day to the schedule.
So that Instagram account, IA_stories, for people like me who don't know the business, it's and when this comes out, we'll be on the other side of the strike vote, and who knows what's going to happen to. I hope, but whatever. This is not a show about union politics, but
what's so interesting about this moment is that a lot of us are getting more concerned about where's my food come from and where's my clothing come from. Think about, where does your content come from?
Right.
So it's just,
well,
I
think
as consumers, we should support the strike, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also, no one gets hurt in the making of this podcast. No one gets hurt in my number one rec of the week.
We do run very long, I have to say.
Well, maybe Becky and Lily get hurt by the long hours. Yeah, Becky and Lily put in so many hours for this.
All the prep, all the post-production. Jeez.
Yeah, all the per hour rate that I make on this show. Well, you can't divide 0 by 0, right? But Leah, my number one rec of the weeks are Leah's both podcasts that are absolutely amazing. Finding Favorites, where Leah interviews people and you learn about recommendations of things without an algorithm, which is something I think we really deeply believe in our show as well, which is it's fun to hear about someone and learn about them and what makes them interested in something much more than some sort of weird aggregated score. And Leah does such a beautiful job, and the topics range from everything from the time I got to talk about cereal to the time I got to talk about cats. But also Adam Salzer's episode about wrestling is one of my favorites ever. Yep. I absolutely love that episode. The episode about the woman who sings in Klingon is genius.
Klingon that one warrior.
Yeah, that one exploded. So that show's amazing. And then Candy Chat is literally candy for your ears. It is so freaking hilarious and so much fun. And your co-host, Jocelyn Gayboy, is amazing.
She's so funny.
So that's my number one recommendation of this week.
Can I give a rec? I have my rec. Oh, you have more?
Sorry, Beck. I have a lot, but you go ahead, Beck.
You always have a lot.
I missed you there.
My rec of the week, if you want to jump.
Your section of the notes, though, is blank. So
it's because I don't want anyone to steal it.
No spoilers.
I don't want anyone to steal it. Guys, season 2 of Love on the Spectrum is back. Some fan favorites are back.
So
People
excited.
Are finding love this season.
That's so exciting. I'm so
literally
excited.
Jumping for joy while I watch it. It is the happiest of happy places. It's my favorite show. I highly recommend season 2 of Love on the Spectrum on Netflix.
I'm so excited to watch.
Yeah. All right, that's my rec. That was it.
Amazing.
Go, Shai. Give us your laundry list.
All right. Well, so hold on. Next, I want to give a huge shout out to the amazing actress, Dana DiLorenzo, who was in Perpetual Grace Limited and Ash vs. Evil Dead, who has become, I would say, a friend of the family. She hasn't been on the show yet, but she's really become a friend of the family. During COVID, we've done these cameo conversations with her and my daughter, my older daughter, and they've become buddies. And it's so funny because my daughter cannot watch anything Dana's been in, but Dana treats her so amazingly well, and it's like they're pen pals. Well, my older daughter and I drove about an hour plus from our house to a horror Comic Con. I took my 10-year-old to this horror Comic Con where people were dressed in like terrifying things to meet Dana DiLorenzo, and she was absolutely incredible. She treated my daughter as if they were lifelong friends and made her feel so special and was so kind to us. And she is just an amazing, hilarious, talented, incredible talent that people should follow, particularly the 2 shows that I mentioned. She's also in a show called Impress Me, which is about impressionists in Hollywood, which I think if you're a fan of comedy, Leah, you might dig. That's on Amazon Prime. It's quite good show. Angela Kinsey from The Office is in it as well. So that was just an amazing experience. And she also wrote 2 very awesome autographs for Becky and Lily, which was really amazing. So that was great. We've been watching Parks and Rec with the kids, as I mentioned. That show's timeless. It's amazing. We watched The Italian Job with the kids.
Oh.
Huge success. We watched Big with the kids. They liked it. They thought it was okay. My wife, watching through the eyes of a mother who is now seeing the movie through the eyes of someone who thought her son went missing for 6 weeks, cried through the whole movie.
Yes.
And since we were talking about comics, in particular women comics, I have to say there's one women comic who I've been following for a few years now. I've seen her live. I've even done some fan art for her. Erica Rhodes is amazing. And she has an album called Sad Lemon. And I think she's also got a special. It's either on Amazon or Netflix. Anyways, Erica Rhodes is really funny, and people should check out her stuff. And I think that's all my list. Leah, where can people follow you?
People can follow me. I'm at Chicago Leah on Twitter, Shai Leah, CHI Leah on Instagram. And Finding Favorites, Candy Chat Chicago are my 2 podcasts.
Amazing. Becky, where can people follow you?
At Paper BK Princess on Twitter.
And Lily, where can people follow you?
At ChiChiChiChi Gomez on Twitter.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Pancake4Table. That's pancake and the number 4 table. You can follow all the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Fry Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram. You can also go to FridayNightMoviePod.com. Our theme music is by What Does It Eat? And we will dance our way into this afternoon. Thank you for hanging with us. Thank you so much to our guests, Leah Jones, Becky, and Lily.
Thank you.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
So awesome talking to you. Bye.